it's Mo. It is Saturday, March 14th. Welcome to another weekly reads, or what I read last week, or whatever. It's currently in the middle of the week when I've been doing these videos before, which these videos are an experiment. I have filmed at the end of the week and talked about what I've already read, but I want to try and incorporate different things into these videos because they are an experiment. So I want to do some that are like vlogs. I want to do some that talk to you throughout the week. Ideally, I'd like to get to a place where I can talk throughout the week in every video, but for right now, we're on Saturday, the last time I spoke to you, and when I wrapped up my last What I Read in a Week, my last Friday reads, whatever we're gonna call this series, it was Wednesday, and I have not finished any books, I don't think. Well, let me just double check that actually. I think that the last book that we talked about was I Need You to Read This. So I did talk about all the books that I've finished. I haven't finished another book yet, which that happens to me sometimes. A lot of times I will finish a book every day, and then a lot of times I won't finish any books for multiple days, and then I'll finish 3 books in one day. It always changes, which is why I think these videos could be fun, and why I think that doing wrap-ups like this and then just breezing through the books that I read at the end of the month is going to be interesting and new, and we'll see how it all goes. So what I'm currently reading, Beloved by Toni Morrison. I am just about 70 pages from the end, so I just have a little bit left to go. I've definitely been taking my time with this one. Sometimes I take my time with Toni Morrison, sometimes I don't. But you will see more of my thoughts on this in a TBR spin video, because I actually did pick this for the 2025 TBR spin. Then I'm also reading The Glory of Their Times, the story of the early days of baseball told by the men who played it. And this is by Lawrence S. Ritter, and this is a nonfiction book told like almost interview style, except without the interviewer. So it's told first person perspective from nonfiction from the men who played baseball. So all different baseball players, lots and lots of them. I think there's 27 or 28 of them who participated in this book. This book was originally written, I believe, in the 80s, and then this edition was re-released in like the 90s maybe, with an extended preface. I'm reading this for an opening day vlog, which of course is not going to come out on opening day, so we're going to stop calling it an opening day vlog. Next, I started Once by Alice Walker. I went to my first library book sale last week and picked this up. I've never read any of Alice Walker's poems before, but Alice Walker is one of my favorite authors. I do not agree with her view on trans people, so it's unfortunate that she has those views, and it's unfortunate that she has kind of proclaimed herself a TERF, but I really do love her writing, and I've read 3 of her books now. 3 books, 2 novels and 1 collection of short stories, and then she also has a few collections of poems. I'm really enjoying this right now. The first poem is very long, but it's about her travels and her stay in Africa, and I really love that one. It's just called African Images, Glimpses from a Tiger's Back. The poem is called that, and it reminded me a lot of Isak Dinesen and Out of Africa, which I love that book, and it made me think I really want to reread that one. I'm also reading Lucky Day by Chuck Tingle on audio. This is not what I expected. It's a horror book, and I'm about just a little under halfway through, and it's funny because this was read by the same person who read I Need You to Read This, but I think I like her reading better in this. She has like a weird accent slip. I don't know if her name is Mara Wilson, and I don't know if she is from a different country than America, and she speaks an American accent in some of her books. She's speaking in an American accent in this, but like towards the end of I Need You to Read This, her accent really like slid out of the American accent in a lot of places, and it was a little jarring, but I'm enjoying this one so far. It's not what I expected. I got this ARC in a little free library in Ocean Grove, New Jersey. There's someone in Ocean Grove, New Jersey who must work in the publishing industry, because there's always ARCs, like many multiple ARCs in those little free libraries. So I've seen this one a couple of times in there, but I'm really glad I picked it up. And this is my first Chuck Tingle. So those are all the books that I'm currently reading, like actively currently reading. I actually do have 2 other books that I am also reading, but we'll talk about those another time. One house cleaning thing that I wanted to mention that I was thinking about today, pardon all the cat hair by the way, is that my comments on YouTube are like messed up somehow. And this has been going on for like over a year, because when I look at my comments, even though they're sorted latest to oldest, I'll only see a handful of new comments. So I am really, really bad at answering comments. I'm terrible at it, and I'm sorry, because I know it's important and I really appreciate everyone's comments. I love when people comment on my videos, and then I'm really bad about getting back to them. But a lot of times I'll answer like 2 or 3 comments, and then I'll go out of it to do something else. You know, I'll go out of the comment area of the YouTube, what do they call that? Creator Studio or whatever. Ooh, those just got so dark. And when I come back, there's like 4 more comments, but they're old. They didn't just come in or anything. So a lot of times, like, I'll go out, go in, go out, go in to try and piece together all the new comments, even though some of them can be very old, like months old. So there's definitely a lot of comments that I haven't gotten to, but I will eventually get to them all, and I appreciate all of them. So just know that it's mostly my own fault, but it's partly like a glitch in the system. Today, we are going to another book sale. I mentioned that I went to the Chatham book sale last week, and you saw the one and only clip I took of that last week, I think. This week, we're going to the Wall Library sale. So it's the first in several that they have every couple of months at the Wall Library sale, and the Wall Library sale is my most local library sale that's like very often reoccurring and that I love to go to, so I'm excited to go there. I still have not filmed my video talking about my Read What You Own wrap up and that experience, and talking about starting to go to book sales and starting to buy books again, and I really do want to like put that in a full video, talk more about it. But I will say here that the first library sale that I went to wasn't as satisfying as they sometimes are. Like last year when I did my book sale series, I was so excited. I loved buying the books and I was so excited. But I think right now I am just overwhelmed with TBR. There's so much TBR in my house that going and getting more books does not feel as fun. It's fun to get the books, but then bringing them home is not as fun. Oh, the other thing that has been on my mind is that I'm so far behind. I'm sitting on so many videos that need to get edited, so I am going to try and really edit videos, and I think actually doing these weekly videos will help me in a way, because I'll always have a video like working. I just have to incorporate it better into my life. But there's a lot of videos that I'm sitting on, there's a lot of videos that I have to film, so hopefully you'll see a consistent amount of videos coming out. That's all for now. When I finish something, when I read some more, I will let you know. That might be skunk cabbage.
More like a tree snapping. Kids?
Artists. Yeah, kids, I think. Okay, it is Wednesday, March 18th, and my plan was to have come back to you yesterday and talk about the books that I finished, but if I had done that yesterday, I would have only finished 1 book. No, 2 books, and now I have finished 4 books. So that's the way it goes sometimes. Like, don't think I finished a book for 4 or 5 days at least, and then now I've finished 4 books in 2 days. I would like to try to get these like on an earlier schedule, but work has been busy, life has been busy, things have been going on, so here I am today. I talked to you on Saturday last, which seems like such a very long time ago now, and it was only a few days ago really, but we went to the book sale. I didn't take any footage. It was really lame actually. The Wall Library sale is usually very good, but they must not have had a lot of donations, maybe because of the weather that we've having. Maybe people didn't want to go out and do those extra things like donate the books that they have, or maybe because it hasn't felt like spring yet, people haven't been like spring cleaning and cleaning out their books, or maybe having a book sale so many times a year is just too much and they oversaturated themselves. We went to dinner with my dad. We had like a St. Patrick's Day celebration. Every year when I was younger, when I was a young adult living in Brooklyn, my dad and I would throw a party on St. Patrick's Day or around St. Patrick's Day, and we would make corned beef and cabbage, and we would watch old horror movies, and then whoever was around would come by and we would have a really good time. We stopped doing that some of the last few years that I lived in Brooklyn, and so this was the first time in a while that we did corned beef and cabbage. Obviously I'm a vegetarian. I didn't eat corned beef, but my husband and I ate cabbage, and my dad made the vegetables separate from the meat. He always does that anyway. It was just an excuse to have dinner. It wasn't really for the holiday. Okay, so the next book that I finished in March, the first book that I finished this week, was Chuck Tingle's Lucky Day. This is the first Chuck Tingle that I've read. It is a queer horror, which is what I expected, but it wasn't as weird and wild and horrific as I thought it was going to be. Chuck Tingle, I know, is kind of known for making weird, erotic horror books as like part of his life, and then more recently he's been making just queer horror books, specifically like revolving around the themes of queerness in horror and queerness and all that kind of stuff. And this book I thought was going to be really not explicit, not excruciatingly violent, but I just thought it was going to be more horrific than it was. That being said, I really enjoyed it. This follows Vera, who at the very start of this book is getting her first book published. She is like a mathematician and a statistician. Her whole life revolves kind of around the math of life and statistics, and how everything is, or she wants everything to be in her life very measured, very straightforward, very much the way that she wants it, and she lives her life in a regimented manner. She gets up at the same time every day, she takes a walk every day, she does the same things, eats the same things, etc., etc. But today, because her book is getting published, her girlfriend slash fiance gets up early with her, goes on the walk for her, and they're going to have this celebratory lunch, and Vera's mom is going to be there. Vera has a strained relationship with her mother, and her mother does not know she's queer and does not know she's engaged, so she is also going to come out to her mother at this lunch. As she's about to do that, as she's doing that, as her mother and she are having this conversation, the world goes haywire and this insane catastrophe happens. And I think that's really all you need to know about this book. I feel like I knew a little bit more going into it. Maybe I was expecting too much. Maybe that's why I was not as taken by this book as I could have been. But the rest of the book is Vera dealing with this event that happened, the aftermath of this event that happens, and then also her own feelings about the event and about the aftermath of event. And it's about grief, and it's about the existential nature of life and living, and what is worth life and what is worth living. And what is life? Are you really living? It was fun. It was kind of a fast-paced adventure. It just wasn't as horrific as I thought it was going to be. There's definitely gory scenes. There's definitely gross scenes. There's definitely gruesome things that happen. There's definitely on-page violence and death. It wasn't as bad as I expected. There is animal death in this as well, but I would say that I was okay with it. Like, it was not just to prove a point, or it was not just to make someone seem evil, or it was not just to be gruesome out of gruesomeness. It was like relevant to the plot, and it was important, and it was done in like a respectful way for the most part. There's some other death in it too, but like animal death, but like the specific one that I'm thinking of, which in other books may have bothered me if it were all those things that I just said, you know, if it was for no reason. But this one, I think it made sense. The next book that I finished in March was Once, Poems by Alice Walker. And this is Alice Walker's first edition of poetry, and also my first time reading Alice Walker's poetry. Alice Walker is fast becoming one of my favorite authors, just for like author's sake. Like, I just love her writing, and I really enjoyed this collection of poetry. This collection definitely feels of a time. Like, it has to do with her traveling around, it has to do with loves that she's had, it has to do with experience being in interracial relationships, both sexual, loving, and otherwise. It has to do with history, it has to do with the current day when Alice Walker was writing these poems. This poetry collection was published in 1968. Lots of stuff going on. If you like poetry and you want to read more Black American authors and Black American poets, I would definitely highly suggest picking this one up. The next book that I finished in March was Wandering Souls by Cecile Pinn. This one I've been wanting to read for a long time. This is an art copy I think I got at a little free library or a used book sale. This was nominated for the Women's Prize, I think. I'm pretty sure that was the prize that it was nominated for. I don't think it won that year. I do like this cover. This follows three siblings who are escaping Vietnam, who are refugees from Vietnam in the 1970s. Right at the very beginning of this book, we find out that their parents are having the three oldest siblings leave ahead of the rest of the family, and then the father, mother, and four other siblings are going to, or five other siblings are going to follow them, and they're all getting on boats and trying to make their way to Hong Kong. And once they get into Hong Kong, they're hoping that they will be accepted to be refugees in America because an uncle lives in America, and they're hoping that they can get like sponsored by him and they can get away from Vietnam. This is not long after the Vietnam War, and their situation in Vietnam is becoming untenable. We follow the three older siblings in their journey. We follow them from Vietnam to Hong Kong and then at some point to England. I don't think you need to know a lot more than that about this book because I knew much more than that going into it from seeing reviews and from hearing people's, and even I think on the back it tells you more than that. I don't think you need to know more than that. It is a family saga because it does follow these three people through their lives, and it does talk about other people in their family. And I don't usually like family sagas, but because it's also rooted within one generation, even though you learn about other generations, it really was compelling. It was really interesting. It's a very fast read. I read it on audio. It was only like 5.5 hours. I mean, the font in this is enormous. It does have not a lot of dialogue, but a lot of almost like imagined dialogue, like you're in the heads of different people in the family, mostly from the perspective of the oldest sister. So we do get parts of the family's life in the different chapters, but interspersed within the different chapters, there are these like little vignettes, and you don't really know what those are or what those are about till the very end of the book. So you're kind of left to wonder why those things are the way they are. And then we also get one other perspective spliced in there as well, which again, I think everyone tells you about when you read this book. I think it's better if you don't know going into it. I do think reading it on audio was a little tough because there are those sections, they aren't explained what they're about. If you're not reading it physically, you don't see the breaks where the pages are. The other perspective, you do get the name, and our main storyline, you do get the date and the location. So those make sense on audio, but the other little snippets, which like I said, come together at the end, don't really make that much sense. But overall, I just really liked it. I thought the writing was really compelling. I liked the story. It was told in a very simple way, but also an emotional way. I definitely teared up at parts. I guess it was told in a way that everyone can relate to. Like, this is not a story that I can relate to. I have never immigrated anywhere. I have never had to flee, not yet anyway, a warring country. I have never had to experience the things that the people in this book experienced. There are these universal truths of everyone and how everyone reacts to certain things, or how they think about certain things, or the emotions that certain things elicit in people. And so for that, it was very relatable. So you felt very close to these characters, even though this is a very short book. This one was excellent. I loved it. I would definitely highly recommend. I could definitely see myself rereading this, and I could see myself rereading this physically or on audio. Chippy's right here with us. Chippy! The last book that I finished this week in March is Beloved. I finished this just this morning, just a few hours ago, and I've been reading this one for a while. I've been reading this one since the end of February because I was very intimidated by this Toni Morrison. I have been reading Toni Morrison in publication order, so this is the 5th Toni Morrison that I've read, but actually I've read 6 Toni Morrison books because I read Sula twice. And I think because Beloved is her most well-known work, her most revered work, her most quoted work, I was very intimidated to read it. So I actually did also put a hold on Libby for the audiobook, which came in a few days ago. But by that time, I was already well into this book and loving it, of course, because Toni Morrison is incredible, and her writing is incredible, and her stories are incredible, and no matter how hard the subject matter is, no matter how far from my own experience, no matter how relatable, no matter how unrelatable, no matter how different, no matter how much the same, like, you can't help but be compelled by her writing and immersed in her writing, and it is so beautiful and lyrical, and it follows such weird trajectories, weird language styles, weird storytelling styles, and yet is so completely easy to read. Beloved is about Setha, who has escaped slavery, and she has brought her children to Ohio. And similar to Wandering Souls, she sends her oldest children ahead of her to her mother-in-law, who is just outside of Cincinnati, Ohio. And then we see how Setha takes her youngest, well, the baby in her belly as she's leaving, as she's escaped slavery to Ohio as a pregnant woman who has just been tortured by her enslavers. So we do learn her story pretty early on, and this book is really about the relationship that Setha has with her past and the people in her life, and how she can't change the past. This story, I think, is mostly about moving on with your life and whether you can do that or not, depending on your circumstances, depending on your history, depending on the people who are in your life, depending on the people who you've lost and the people who come back into your life. We see Setha as an adult, as a grown woman with her now grown baby who she escaped with in utero, their relationship, Setha's relationship to her mother-in-law, and when things from her past come up, how she deals with those things. I think that this book is spoiled a lot. This book got spoiled for me. Like, there were things that would have been very impactful and very shocking if I hadn't been spoiled for them. So I don't think you should read the back, and I don't think you should go into more than what I've told you. It's a woman reckoning with her past and her future and her current life, how life is lived when the past is inescapable sometimes. I mean, it's amazing, it's wonderful, it's fantastic. You should read it. Like I said, I got the audiobook of this, and I think I'm gonna immediately reread it on audio. Like, I just finished this morning, and an hour later I started the audiobook again. It's read by Toni Morrison, so I think it would be really fascinating to have read this on my own, taken my time with it, and now read it in like kind of a concise timeline again, read by the author. So those are the books that I read this week in March. Thank you again for all your feedback about these videos, for watching and rooting me on in these weekly videos. Let me know what you've been reading this week. I'll see you before next week, but I will see you again next week in my weekly reading update. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!